College football is a thing of collateral beauty. One day you can think that your program that you love so dearly and have watched vigorously and religiously go and present themselves as this playoff contender, this even national championship contender, and you see spurts of it. You see glimpses of greatness just in the distance, happening week by week. And then one day, when the world and your world seems to be shining the brightest, that's when the darkest of shadows can emerge. And that's what happened in Bryant-Denny Stadium with Oklahoma coming in and beating Alabama. We'll get to that game later. But the big thing is Kalen DeBoer's black hoodie. Mrs. DeBoer didn't iron it enough. That streak is broken. Alabama's 17 home win streak broken again. It's a tumultuous time for Alabama fans, but we're not out of it yet. But the thing that looms in the distance, like every Alabama season, every other year, is that fatal game against Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium, with Auburn having the ability to ruin another Alabama championship season. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College Football Under Review. Yes, Alabama lost. I'll just go ahead and get it out there. We'll be talking about that game plenty, but this is our Week 12 recap episode. And just like college football, Alabama isn't in the limelight anymore, so we got to talk about a lot more stuff. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It helps us know that you enjoy the content, and it helps us know that we're doing good. Also, you just want to be a part of the Under Review community. It's a good one to be a part of. But some of the headlines I have gathered from this weekend go something like the American Conference is still completely wide open. Respect the troops. Navy had a big win over USF to now take the leading spot in that conference. Numerous 8-2 teams are now starting to fill the playoff conversation and bubble, which could ultimately give us some of the most chaotic games, conversations, and times in college football these last 2 weeks of the regular season. And after this Alabama game, has Alabama as a program found its kryptonite, but it was always there? And who is that kryptonite? It's Brent Venables. He's always had Alabama's number, even when he was the defensive coordinator at Clemson with Dabo Swinney. He beat Alabama 2 times in the national championship as defensive coordinator, and he's been able to do it 2 times at Oklahoma in the regular season. And then the Heisman race, I believe, is now between Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza, and possibly Gunnar Stockton or Jeremiah Smith. And then the last question I really have as a headline is, can the ACC actually produce a threat for the playoffs? Now, something that's a threat coming into our day-to-day life, and I think you can feel it in the weather. It's getting a little cold out. So what are you going to do about that? Well, you can go and reach out to 38 Hot Tubs because they are a family-owned and American-built business supplying Viking tubs that feature high-quality material and superior components, ensuring that every aspect of the hot tub is designed to last for years to come. When it comes to relaxation, recovery, and overall well-being, few things compared to the soothing experience of a high-quality hot tub. And for Rob Abel, it's all about helping people improve their health and quality of life. Whether you're an athlete looking for muscle recovery or someone who simply wants to unwind after a long day, soaking in a hot tub can provide numerous benefits. The ideal combination of warm water and hydrotherapy jets can ease tension and lower cortisol levels to help combat anxiety. A hot tub even promotes better blood flow, which leads to better muscle recovery, reduced soreness, and improved flexibility, combined with overall cardiovascular health improvements. Even a nice nighttime soak can improve sleep quality by relaxing the body and mind before bed. So if you're interested in experiencing the therapeutic benefits of a Viking spa, reach out to Rob Abel today. If you mention this ad to Rob, your journey to relaxation and wellness starts with a $200 discount off one spa and $600 for an order of 2. 38 Hot Tubs. Whether you're looking for relief from sore muscles, a way to enhance your fitness routine, or simply a place to relax with family and friends, Rob is here to help you find the perfect hot tub to fit your needs. Now let's take college football under review. In this first game, yes, number 11 Oklahoma beats number 4 Alabama 23-21. I had the esteemed privilege to actually watch this loss happen. I think anytime I go to an Alabama game, I see half of the great games that are just dominant performances, or I see some of the worst performances or most miraculous moments for Alabama opponents. I was there for the Texas game when Texas came into Tuscaloosa, beat Alabama, and I was also at the Menzel Magic Miracle game, which that was a fun one. But let's talk about this game. This Oklahoma team, they had grit, they had determination, they had fight. They had everything that a physical and Brent Venables-led defense should look like. Their offense was a little lackluster. Their offense very much underperformed, but their offense didn't need to perform the way that they did when their defense is able to get 3 turnovers. Yes, Alabama lost this game by 2 points, and the fact is that there were 3 turnovers in the first half and a missed field goal, and it wasn't no 52-yarder, 46-yarder. It was a 35-yarder, which led to the Alabama loss. Alabama in this game was forced numerous times to start drives deep in their own backfield around with their average starting stat being around their own 23-yard line, while Oklahoma was able to start around the 43-yard line average in their game. This was huge for Oklahoma. A lot of Alabama fans had the feeling of, we don't feel comfortable about this game. We don't know how we're going to do about this defense. They seem to always have our number. And I think that the bigger case was not this team was good. The bigger case was that this team has showed up in big games against big opponents. Their defense is good, and they're also fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive, and Brent Venables is going to do anything and everything he can to keep this Oklahoma team going, because when we go back at the beginning of the season, he really was on the hot seat because of the way he finished last season. So the way he has been able to finishing his season this year, which was an absolute gauntlet, just shows the determination he has to make sure that this Oklahoma team is good, because a lot of coaches would have thrown in the towel because he had one of the toughest SEC schedules coming into this season. And the fact that he was able to go into Tuscaloosa and get this win not only helps his resume to keep his job, but also Oklahoma's for the opportunity to go to the playoffs. With the overarching theme after this game for Alabama fans, the Iron Bowl will now be the most crucial game of the Alabama season, and it's in Jordan-Hare, which, if you aren't an Alabama fan, they've got some voodoo curse in there that I don't think anyone could break. It's crazy. Crazy things happen, and it's a threatening environment for any Alabama team. But I think we need to ask ourselves a question. Is it time that we start talking about Brent Venables as one of the great defensive minds currently in college football? And I think the answer is yes. This guy was able to defeat a Nick Saban team 2 out of 3 times that he went up against Nick Saban in the national championship. Alabama beat them one time in a semifinal game when it was the 4-team playoff. I didn't think that their team was as good at the time, but I think Brent Venables is one of the great defensive minds in college football. He's able to come into these big atmospheres and come away with big wins. Not only that, but he has, no matter what program he has been in, the defense has had this sort of almost looming threat of just domination when it comes to attacking opponents' quarterbacks and the multiple different looks that they are able to give. So I think, yes, we need to start talking about Brent Venables as one of the best defensive coordinators in the nation. And I think the last thing that Alabama fans need to come to terms with is that the Ty Simpson Heisman race candidacy is gone. After that game, he looked terrible. He had deer in headlights, kind of like the FSU game, because he was getting so much quarterback pressure. And when we are not able to get quarterback pressure and the amount of drops that we had to receivers and bad passes, this completely took Ty Simpson out of the Heisman race, in my opinion. So those are just my thoughts from the Alabama game. I was there. It was not a pretty sight to behold. It really felt like, okay, I guess we're having to do another last-minute drive to kind of win, and that's no way that any national championship contending team should be able to compete. So Oklahoma beats Alabama 23-21 in Tuscaloosa. And now number 9, Notre Dame at number 22, Pittsburgh. They win 37-15. And it seems like Pat Narduzzi was right. Doesn't matter how much they lose because they got destroyed. Now, I think that he knew, the Pittsburgh head coach Pat Narduzzi kind of knew that he was going to lose this game. And I think the reason earlier in the week in the press conference, he said it doesn't matter if we win or lose, more or less lose, because I think he knew he was going to lose this game and he just wanted to lessen the blow to everyone and just make it more aware to everyone that, yes, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because we can still make the ACC championship. But if they win that ACC championship, the real question falls into, where are you going to be ranked? Are you going to be ranked above the group of 5 team or behind? It's an interesting thing to look at, but I think Pat Narduzzi just knew and was playing politics because he knew that this Notre Dame team was so much better than him. But this was big for Notre Dame because they finally get another ranked win under their belt outside of USC. With their 2 losses, I still think that they are the weakest 2-loss team resume-wise going into the playoff conversation. I think that they are still going to be treated like the royalty they are in college football because of the 2 words Notre Dame that come before their schedule, or that come before their schedule overall. And I think that we can't really be mad at Notre Dame right now sneaking into the playoffs. And if they do, because all of these other teams and conferences really aren't putting up these teams that should be on the pedestal, these undefeated teams. It's a lot of 10-2 or 3-loss teams. And so that has really allowed the door to open a lot for Notre Dame. So I don't think we can be mad that they are going to sneak in the playoffs. But speaking on overall this game, Notre Dame just had Pittsburgh's number at the beginning of the game. Pittsburgh wasn't really in it. Notre Dame is finally getting their stride after they barely beat Boston College, which was scary. I think that their defense is not quite there. I think it still has that physicality that Marcus Freeman is going to bring to the table and coach them up that way. But I don't think that they are schematically sound. I don't think they have the best athletes there as they did last season. But the offense, I feel like, has done a complete 180 in terms of last season. Last season, very run-heavy. Riley Leonard, they were able to milk the clock a lot. But C.J. Carr and this Notre Dame offense with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, they are electric. They are fun to watch. Jeremiah Love had one of the craziest spin moves I've ever seen. It was electric. It was awesome to watch. But this Notre Dame offense is playoff ready. The defense, though, we'll see if they can handle another playoff team like Texas A&M that they lost to, or Miami that is still in the conversation. Because I don't think that they have been truly tested since then, and they've kind of cakewalked. But that Boston College game, they didn't really cakewalk that much. And I'm just very interested to see what happens when they play that first week in the college football playoff. So Notre Dame beats Pittsburgh 37-15. And number 21, Iowa, loses to number 17, USC, 21-26. USC wins this game, and I think USC learned their lesson from the Illinois game and was able to win in the fourth quarter in the right fashion because their defense showed up in physicality, and in the second half, they just dominated the whole game. I think Lincoln Riley seems to have finally found a team. He told USC faithful, please give me time, give me time. They've given you time, and now he's actually producing what he said he could make. This is the best team that they have had at USC, just in how complete they play. And because of how they've played this season, they really have the opportunity to make the playoffs if they can do something great and beat Oregon, but they have to go into Oregon. So it's a very tall task to ask for, but I think Lincoln Riley is finally building what he had in mind, but it took him a little time. I think that next season, USC very much is a playoff contender. Maeva playing great. Their offense looks great, but their defense is finally stepping up when they need to. And just overall for Iowa's dominating the first half. Their offense clicking on all cylinders. Gronowski got a rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, and throwing touchdown. That's the second time, too, that has happened against USC. Luke Altmaier being the other one. But Iowa, with their head coach, he's the longest tenured head coach in the sport right now. I hate to say it, but with him, they are stuck in a perpetual state of mediocrity. And mediocrity for some programs may be 6-6, but the mediocrity that they are stuck at is the defense is going to be great. The offense is going to be lacking. They're always going to be around 7-5 or 8-4 win seasons. And I think the question is when will that change, or is Iowa just content on having maybe just sticking with the devil they know instead of the devil they don't? But I didn't have much for this game. It was very much of a slugfest. Nothing too crazy happened, but USC beats Iowa 26-21 and keeps their playoff hopes alive. And then the last impact game of the week, number 5 Georgia beats number 10 Texas 35-10. Georgia finally looking playoff ready and really put their proverbial balls on the table with a lot of the play calling that Kirby Smart had for fourth downs, their third downs, and special teams. Kirby Smart is a special team happy-go-lucky guy. I feel like a lot of times he has these fun trick plays or that he does for special teams, or likes to try something when it's a little risky. And I think a lot of the time he falls flat on his face, and it just looks like a stupid idea. But one of the craziest things I ever saw in a football game was him up at least about 21-10, I believe, and he goes and kicks an onside kick. Texas wasn't ready for it, and they got the ball and were able to go up another score. This team is looking like they're playing exciting football. They look like they are playing complete football, and they are peaking at the right time because their SEC schedules, it's over. They have, and Sisters of the Poor game, and then they go play Georgia Tech, which will be a very interesting game. And I think that will be a great game to tune them up because Georgia Tech has been looking very weak in the last couple of weeks. I think one question, though, that could be in the back of all our minds is where will Arch Manning go from here? And when I say that, I am saying, will he continue to stay at Texas and develop one more year to go to the draft, or will he potentially find another team? And I think that Arch will stay at Texas. He doesn't seem like a big NIL kind of person. His draft stock, it has been hurt exponentially. I think his name, though, will get him in the draft, even if it's like a 7th round pick. But I think that Arch will stay at Texas because he has stuck there for so long. I think that they are going to need to do a lot of development over the offseason. But I think that he still has the opportunity to do something better than average next year because this year he's just average. Their defense has really had to step up and save them in a lot of situations. But I think Arch Manning does stay at Texas. I think he has a Quinn Ewers type of season next year. He doesn't do anything flashy, crazy, but his fundamentals are there, and he's done all the small things right because he has not looked confident as the quarterback at Texas. And as much as Georgia fans love to hate on Mike Bobo, I think they have to admit that he called a pretty good game in this one. But Georgia is starting to look like this threat in the playoffs, this national championship contender, a team that can go up against Ohio State. Because at the beginning of the season, they didn't look it, but now they are finally finding their stride, and they're peaking at the right time, which is what some of these other teams like Oklahoma are doing, USC are doing. And it's kind of what you need to get in this playoff mindset. We saw it with Ohio State last season. They kind of coasted. They had some bad games here and there, but they peaked at the right time. Now let's look at the notable games from Week 12. Number 24, USF lost to Navy. Respect the troops. Navy beats them 41-38. Navy now takes the American Conference lead going into this Week 13. USF most likely knocked out of the playoffs, even though their resume is very strong. I don't think that they will be able to make the American Conference anymore. There are still about 3 to 4 teams that have a chance to play in the American Conference Championship, but Navy right now takes the lead in those standings. So Navy now in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. Crazy enough, because there was that whole discussion last year. Could the Army-Navy game be a crucial game for the playoffs? And I'm interested to see if Navy does have a bid for the playoffs or the potential to make the playoffs. Are they going to do the playoff bid before the Army-Navy game or after? Because that's one thing I'm interested to see. And then number 19, Virginia beats Duke 34-17. Thank goodness. I don't think any of us wanted to see a Duke ACC champion, or at least Duke in the ACC championship game, because that would just be boring. Virginia staves off the Duke nightmare scenario of them being in the playoffs, or them winning the ACC, because they would not be in the playoffs. And Virginia is still in the driver's seat to be the second team to have the opportunity to play in the ACC championship. I believe it's them and Georgia Tech both on top still. Miami finally looking like themselves again, beating NC State 41-7. Carson Beck finally looking back to his usual self. Miami is a very interesting case right now. I think Miami has shown flashes of a good team and could upset someone in the playoff, but I don't think that they will get the opportunity because of all these other SEC teams that are ahead of them, unless something wild in the ACC happens and they have the opportunity to play in the ACC championship game, or some of these other teams ahead of them just start losing. It's happened before, but Miami does not control their own destiny, and I think all Miami fans are just hoping that chaos happens at this point. Number 7, Ole Miss beats Florida 34-24. Ole Miss was in fourth quarter. It looked like Florida had the opportunity. Florida, they find a way to lose games. They were winning the majority of this game. They were in the driver's seat. They looked pretty good, at least pretty good against the number 7 team. And then they just folded in the fourth quarter, found a way to lose this game. And Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, he threw out a questionable quote out there, so I don't know if Ole Miss will potentially be able to keep Lane or not. He's always going to provide something interesting for the reporters, the media, but I think that this Ole Miss team, all they have to do is beat Mississippi State, and they go to the playoffs. It's as simple as that. And then San Diego State beats Boise State 17-7. San Diego State now in the driver's seat for the Mountain West Conference Championship game. They reclaimed that after their loss to Hawaii. That is still about a 4 to 5 team tie for the second place. So the Mountain West Conference is going to be a fun one to watch these last 2 weeks. And then our second slate of notable games, Week 12. Number 3, Texas A&M survives against South Carolina 31-30. How can I say this but lightly, but Shane Beamer makes himself look like a complete idiot. He's going into halftime, making it all about himself. He's saying, "Where are you, Texas A&M? We're here. We're beating you." Well, you didn't do jack the second half, and his attitude that shows on his chest does not help the team in mentally focusing in the game or physically as well, because I think that they just shut down. South Carolina was not ready. Texas A&M, terrible in the first half, great in the second half. They win this game, but one thing that has been brought up to everyone's attention is, yes, they barely won another game. Alabama barely won against South Carolina. South Carolina is a decent team, has the ability to upset someone, but Texas A&M, they have played their 7 wins in the conference are all against the bottom 7 SEC teams. And multiple of those games are by 1 score. So I think the big question now is, can Texas A&M beat Texas? Because Texas A&M after this game almost has a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. And then number 18, Michigan beats Northwestern 24-22. Michigan just barely wins this game off of a walk-off field goal. And Michigan, who has had a seemingly mediocre season, sits at 8-2. They still have an opportunity to make the playoffs if they can beat Ohio State. And Arizona beats number 25 Cincinnati 30-24. Cincinnati out of the Big 12 conference championship race and the playoff race. Arizona just showing up like one of the Big 12 teams do. It's a Wild West shootout. You never know who's going to win week in, week out. But Cincinnati, after having a great season, starting to fall off just a little bit. But not falling off as bad as number 20 Louisville losing to Clemson 20-19. Louisville missed 3 field goals in this game, and that's ultimately how they lost to Clemson. Dabo Swinney, this is his second win in a row. He just needs to win one more game, and they are bowl eligible for the 21st year in a row. Can't believe he has saved this streak. Could save his job as well. Louisville, though, it's those Friday night lights, man. The upsets always happen on Friday night. Underdogs seem to always win on Friday night. Then our last game, number 6 Texas Tech, also one of these other playoff contender teams that also are peaking at the right time and have the ability to do something great in the playoffs. They beat UCF 48-9, absolutely dominate this game. And I think Texas Tech has the ability to have a great season and potentially shake up the playoffs. So here are my takeaways from week 12. The group of 5 playoff spot, I think, will either go to the American Conference champions or it will go to JMU. JMU is silently beating up on these other group of 5 teams and look poised to make it in the playoffs if the American Conference continues to cannibalize itself. And then I stated it earlier, Michigan, if they can beat Ohio State, they should be in the playoffs, in my opinion. And then I think that this season we will truly figure out, based on the quality of teams in the playoff, whether or not the 12-team playoff is too big or it should have been 8 teams originally. Because I think there's a lot of fun teams, but I think that there's a possibility that it could be oversaturated with mediocre teams. And just like last season, the first round not being that fun, I hope that this one is a lot more fun, because I may question, okay, is the 12-team worth it? Because this first round kind of just seems to be whatever. And then Texas A&M may make the playoff, but are they truly a playoff team? I think that until the SEC championship game and the Texas game, based on if they go based on those two games, we'll be able to figure out whether or not they do belong in the playoff or not. But I think that they will make the playoff no matter what this season. I think Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame is having the same problem as Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, because they both, I believe, should be in the Heisman conversation, go to New York. But they have to share the spotlight with very good respective players in their skill position room. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, they're both very good. I'm not throwing shade at either one. I think they're both great. I just think that Jeremiah Love is the better one. They share the skill position, so they share touchdowns and everything. And then Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, he has to share the passes with those. But without those two complementing each other, their team wouldn't be as good. So you just gotta bite the bullet, I feel like sometimes. And I think after what we've seen from Texas Tech this season, I think that they should make the semifinals. I think they have a team good enough, and they should make it. If they don't, that's not a knock on me getting it wrong. That's just them not doing their job. And let's just discuss about how crazy this playoff could be with the teams that still have the ability to make the playoffs. So these are all the Power 4 teams, in my opinion, that still have a chance to make the playoffs. I have some that are one losses that I just excluded because I think that they are already in. But these are some of the ones that I think are on the fence. Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, BYU, Vanderbilt, Utah, Miami, USC, Michigan, Virginia, Georgia Tech. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams that could potentially make the playoffs. And then that's just Power 4. In Group of 5, I think it's going to be either JMU, anyone in the Mountain West could potentially still win it, and the American Athletic Conference winner can definitely be in there. So that is about, let's just say, 15 teams that still have the chance. And I'm not even counting about I'd say the top 7 teams in the nation. So there's about 1/3 of those teams have the ability will be able to make it in. So it's very interesting to see who can make it in. But now let's get to our closing categories. The good, I'm giving it to the Disney and YouTube TV dispute, finally resolved. Thank goodness. It was not only annoying just like having to go somewhere else to watch it, but it was annoying that all these ESPN affiliates and ESPN spokespeople were like, oh, download the app. They were part of the Mickey Mouse machine. I don't like that. And I'm just tired of this whole dispute, debate, debacle, this demonstrative display of a monopoly being cast upon our faces, our TV screens, and simply being erased. So I'm finally glad that we are back to normal YouTube TV with ESPN. And then the bad. The bad. South Carolina giving up a 27-point lead going into halftime. I was like, wow, Texas A&M, I can't believe this. Nope, I can't believe Texas A&M came back. That was so bad on so many levels that you allowed that to happen. Shane Beamer's bad season could have been saved and his job would have been a lot better, but no. South Carolina gave up a 27-point lead to lose against the number 3 team in the nation. And the ugly could have been a lot of things. I almost gave it to the state trooper in that Texas A&M South Carolina game. But I'm giving the ugly to Clemson fumbling not once, but 2 times in a row on the goal line against Louisville. I was watching the game, and I saw the first one happen, and I go, wow, they're lucky that they got that back. And then it happened again on the goal line, and I said, well, yep, that's the ugly, because it was 3rd and 4th down where they fumbled it both times and lost the ball. So congratulations, Clemson. You won the game, but you won it in a very ugly fashion. And then our under review player of the week. There were a lot of great performances this weekend, but I think one that really dominated the game this weekend, one that really showed up when he needed to, one that has been lurking in the shadows of being great this season, and that's none other than Ole Miss running back Kawan Lacey. He had 31 rush attempts for 224 yards with an average yard per rush of 7.2 and 3 touchdowns in the game. He was phenomenal. He was a great player this weekend. He outplayed everyone else as a running back, in my opinion, and he just played overall better than some of the quarterbacks this weekend. So that's why I'm giving it to Kawan Lacey. And then I want to, next Thursday, we'll have our Week 13 recap episode, and it should be a very weak slate. I believe it is, a lot of teams gearing up for their rivalry week, so it's, sister of the poor games. But let's see what some of these games could be. Give me a second. Missouri, Oklahoma, that could be good. I think our big games, though, are going... The big game of the week is 100% going to be USC at Oregon. We've got Pittsburgh at Georgia Tech. We've got BYU at Cincinnati. And we have Missouri at Oklahoma. Those, I believe, are going to be the 4 games, unless the polls change it, which they probably will. But I'm Nick Watts. Thank all of you for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time when we take more college football under review.